Wednesday, usually a different topic. This month's topic is the power plant and data centers that are coming in. We're going to talk about community benefit programs and clean air. Jay, our main speaker, is running a little bit late. He should be here in like 5 or 10 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to have Christina from the Center of Community Growth come up and talk about this packet that the interns made.
Yes.
All right, come on up, Christina.
Thanks. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, everybody, for having the Center for Community Growth here tonight. And this wonderful vegan food. I've had so much of it already. Our interns worked over a three-month period conducting a research project on the frequently asked questions surrounding the Homer City AI data centers. And we've just gotten approval this evening to disseminate this report. So Mihaela is one of our interns. Mihaela's here tonight. Our other interns are working in class this evening. So do each of you have a report in front of you? Does anybody need a report? Okay, so this is very well documented. It's footnoted at the back. If anybody has any questions, why don't you take a little bit of a read through? Bounce any questions off of Mihaela, and yes, and if you would like a digital copy, you can get back to me at my email address, and I'll be happy to send you a digital copy. Okay? Thank you.
So Mihaela, how did you guys get started with this? Tell us a little bit, just good spec.
We just wanted to start researching on the facts, like the impacts of data centers in general all over the world, and then we brought it down to the US and then how it would affect the Homer City. So it's more like a general idea of data centers, their impacts on the economy, on the environment, on the jobs and stuff like that. And then we try to link that data with the AI data center that's being introduced in Homer City. And mostly we wanted to learn about the environment, to be honest, like how would that be impacted. So yeah, we tried back with that. And there were like 5 of us, so everybody had their input. Everybody had their different sections, and that's how we came up with this. Cool. Yeah.
Does this report actually report the corporations that are trying to do business here? Is there a list of like the gas companies, electric companies?
No.
You don't have that?
Yeah.
Like who are the principals that are involved? You didn't get that.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
That's a really good point. Our interns will be making a presentation at our annual meeting, Center for Community Growth annual meeting, which is January 15th on Long Island, so everybody's welcome to attend. But their interns will be making a presentation, so that's a good point. We can try to expand that there.
Any other questions?
There's a lot of stuff in here.
There's a whole lot.
I have a question. It says in here that some of the economic impacts will be that it has stronger tax bases. What does that mean specifically? Does that mean like the value of homes will go up, or there will be more taxes, or higher taxes?
This was a section that was done by another of our interns, so I think they would definitely know the answer, but for me, I didn't work on this section, so.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
Which section did you work on?
I work more on the environment.
Environmental, okay.
Okay, I have a question about the environmental impacts. So, from the little bit I know about data centers is they put a lot of heat into the environment.
Yeah.
They're going to be heating the water, correct? So the discharge out of the plant will affect the aquatic life downstream, and that could be very devastating.
Yeah.
The other factor It's gonna put a lot of noise pollution within a certain radius of the data center. And I've read and heard that people will be affected by the excess noise radiation.
It's the noise.
Are those accurate statements?
Yeah, these are accurate statements. And then this was also a concern that was raised when we had that meeting in the
The KCAC with the Homer City reconstruction.
Yeah.
But you know, they keep saying that the noise impact. Shireen, are you here?
I'm back here.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Were you at the meeting where they said the noise impact wasn't going to be above an acceptable level? It's an acceptable level of the noise impact. And
That's what they told.
Yeah, that's what they said. I find that really hard to believe.
Because, yeah.
They were talking about the gas plant, not the data center.
Right.
Oh,
Yes,
okay, thank you
yeah.
for clarifying that,
Yeah.
okay.
The data center is gonna have these huge fans, right, running 24/7. So if you're within a certain proximity to the data center, you're gonna hear that constant drone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
droning of the fans.
Right, there's a real reaction against data centers in Northern Virginia at this point, because so many have been established there that people are experiencing the constant noise as a stressor, and you can't get away from it, you can't make it stop.
I have a question about kind of the environment and the animals there. Like, do we know what species of animals will be impacted, or even of even within like the microbiome? Like,
Yeah, specifically what I read was that, for humans as well, it'll be like it cause cardiovascular problems on the longer run, as mentioned in the report. But generally, yes, it would impact humans. So I am sure it would impact the natural life, whatever.
I'm just wondering, is there like any protected species that might like live in the area that would give people more motivation to take better care of it? Are they violating laws by like disrupting these, any kind of species? Could be large animals or could be
Protected frog or something,
fish.
yeah.
Yeah, it could be, it could be a bacteria, like anything that's like really important. So I'm super against it, so I'm just looking for any kind of foothold we can get to argue more.
Well, from what I've heard is the impact is gonna be greatest on children. The younger the child, the greater the impact. So if you have infants to, preteens living in proximity, the impact on them will be even greater than someone your age, and then the impact on people my age will be also accelerated. But the thing is, you can't get away from it unless you leave home.
Yeah.
That's, it's not like you can shut your window because your house will be like a diaphragm.
Yeah, it's like a base.
Yeah, it'll vibrate.
Yeah.
I had a situation a couple of months ago where I live in the woods in a remote area. And a visitor to a neighbor had this, I don't know, maybe someone here can tell me, but it was this woofer in the car, and when he would drive past my house.
Shake the windows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that what people are going to be in store for, this shaking, this woofing?
I have heard.
Depends on how far away
It's
you are.
unbelievable. He drove past
Jay.
and I couldn't escape.
So Jay is here now.
Hi, everyone.
He's one of our main,
Awesome.
our other speaker, Allison, she couldn't make it tonight, but we have Jay. And so go ahead and start, Jay.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jay Walker. I'm the community organizer with Clean Air Council. Thanks for having me. One thing that's really important to know is that I'm an organizer. I'm not an engineer or an attorney, but I work with a lot of engineers and attorneys, and they are like really in-depth analyzing this project, and like every day, not like ongoing, digging through permits, digging through all sorts of processes. So I guess the three things I just quickly want to start with was, one, I think a lot of people feel that the project is like already done, right? Like that there's no more room for input, especially since they got the plan approval through the DEP approved their plan approval. So one thing I want to stress is that is not the case. Every project that happens around the country wants to sell itself like it's already done. That's the best way to kind of like make it so that people don't have a say. But the way that projects are supposed to work is that the people who live there get to decide what projects happen in their communities. So I want to start with saying that. Another thing I want to say is that the jobs are, they're kind of, at best, exaggerated, right? So there's a couple things. One is conflating the data center jobs with the power plant jobs. We were just talking about some of the impacts. Whenever we talk about the impacts, they say that we can't speak to the data center because there's no plans, right? But whenever we talk about the positive impacts, we're talking about the data center as well. So you got to watch out for that. Two different projects, right? That's not really an apples and apples comparison when you're talking about the pros and the cons. So yeah, this is being talked about as a jobs project, but there's not that many jobs that come from data centers, and there's not that many jobs that come from gas plants, other than construction jobs, which is good. The construction jobs are real, but they're short term. So that's something to keep in mind. In addition, the data centers are being built for AI. At least like that's what our engineers say. Like that's the only thing you're going to need so much energy and so much data center capacity is for AI. And one of AI's purposes is to cut jobs. So when we're talking about like the main purpose of this project is for jobs, the purpose of this technology is to cut jobs so that corporations can cut jobs. We've already automated and outsourced blue collar jobs, a lot of blue collar jobs. AI is looking to automate and outsource white collar jobs. So attorneys, programmers, those sorts of things. Corporations are looking to cut their costs on jobs. So when you hear the jobs argument being pushed for this project, just keep that in mind. Like, you don't want a short-term job solution that's going to hurt jobs in the long run, right? Okay, and the third thing I'll say is that some of the big backers behind this project are, I think the face of the project is being shown in one way, right? Robin Gorman is a major face of this project. People know her in Indiana County, but kind of behind Robin Gorman is like the owners of the project are a private equity firm from New York City, Knighthead Capital. Knighthead Capital does not have the best interest of Indiana at heart, right? Private equity firms, their purpose is to make as much money as they can, and they just don't care about the economic well-being of Indiana County or the surrounding area. In addition, another major backer is EQT. You'll see that Homer City Redevelopment signed this big fracking agreement with EQT. EQT is the largest fracker in America. This is part of a long line of projects that's trying to push usage for fracked gas, because there's so much drilling of fracked gas going on in our state that the prices are plummeting. So build that to drive up the price of gas. Then they're trying to ship all this gas overseas with liquid natural gas, LNG, through LNG terminals. Again, the purpose is to drive up the price of gas to increase fossil fuel profits. And now this is another new project to try to make a big consumer of fracked gas to kind of pad the pockets of the fossil fuel industry and also the politicians that back the fossil fuel industry and that are in turn backed by the fossil fuel industry. So those are kind of like the 3 points I'm really trying to stress. First point is that it's not a done deal. It's not over, right? There's still opportunities for residents to weigh in. We've seen projects get stopped at all different stages, right? Like about to be built, it's not too late. The funders, the financiers can pull out. They could get nervous about questions about whether people want to see this project happen or not. Okay, so that's the first point. Not a done deal. Second point is that it's not as many jobs as being presented. Oh, one thing I didn't mention is this idea of direct and indirect jobs, right? So they want to, not that many people work at a data center, so there's a lot of talk of indirect jobs because they're basically trying to say like if a security guard that works at a data center goes to the grocery store, they're creating a job, right? That's kind of like the idea. So you got to watch out for that direct, indirect job sleight of hand. Okay, second point, the economic impacts are being, the job impacts are being oversold, and in fact, AI's purpose is to cut jobs. And then number 3 is that this is being backed by private equity to make corporations rich, bankers in New York City rich, and also to prop up the price of fracked gas. Those are the real backers of this project. That's like, those are the main drivers. Okay, those are 3 points I guess I'm trying to stress right now. Yeah, Travis.
A couple of weeks ago, I saw on Facebook that Jared Kushner visited the area to oversee the project. Do you know anything about that, or is his firm with the Saudi backing?
No, I mean, I think that was kind of like, people saw that, right?
Yeah.
People were sharing that, and then they like deleted that, right?
Yeah.
Did you guys see that post like later on?
Yeah.
Right? The airport posted that Jared Kushner is here. They're like, yeah, Jared Kushner's here for the project, and then suddenly that post like disappeared.
Right.
So I don't know why that is, but when something is disappearing like that, it makes me ask questions, and should make anyone ask questions. Like, someone didn't want that post to be up, and that should I don't know, raise a flag, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I can't answer that question. But I think I'm curious as well. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Did you guys talk about community benefits agreements? I feel like that was like
I was going to talk about that.
someone was going to talk about that. Okay.
But tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the other speaker is going to say about it. Maybe someone else can speak to that.
We can tell you, this came from, she was gonna use this, kind of a basics of community benefits.
Got it.
What they are,
Is it-
how you get one.
This is from Chris Shea.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Is it something that, can someone from the Center for Community, there's a lot of people here from the center that could speak towards like this community benefits work. Is it in motion? Is it happening? Like, is there something cooking?
Not that I know of. I wouldn't even know where to start for us. Like, who on the government side would be pushing for us? Like, the business is one part of the contract. Who signs it on the other side? Is the mayor?
Sure.
Who represents the community in that case?
So, okay, this is, one real key is that there needs to be some sort of governmental leverage, right? Right now, a lot of things that Clean Air Council's been working on, and I know residents here have been working on, are like, it's the DEP point, right?
Yeah.
The DEP is a branch of the Executive Office of Governor Shapiro, and they're kind of like, they do internal administration type work. So it's not really the type of place that like represents Indiana County, right? There needs to be some sort of leverage, right? So like, I've seen a lot of community benefits agreements come from when there needs to be like a rezoning, or even like a conditional use sort of thing, like in that zoning process. There needs to be some sort of hook, right? And at least our attorneys have not been able to find that sort of hook. Where like, if they don't convince, say, a borough council or something like that to okay it, then they can just stop the project. Right? There needs to be some sort of negotiating terms.
Right.
So at least Clean Air Council hasn't found any. We'd be curious to hear if anyone else has found any. I mean, it's possible that if people are like, hey, like, we're worried about this project, that they're gonna want to, like, who would they sign? Like, because the basis of the agreement is some sort of legal leverage, right? And they'd make a legally binding agreement. I mean, I guess it's possible that they could have an agreement to kind of like make it so that people are less worried about the impacts or something like that. I don't know. It's just like, it's a little wishy-washy, right? And that's like, Clean Air Council likes to really stay in like areas that are less wishy-washy. So like lawsuits, and lawsuits based on like the Clean Air Act, the DEP, that sort of thing. That's kind of a little bit more of our area. But then we also recognize that something that is wishy-washy is like public sentiment, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no legal recognition of public sentiment. It's sort of like, if it's in the papers a lot and people are pissed, then people start like, worrying about what public sentiment might be. So that's a little bit more wishy-washy. But the thing is, when you have a community benefit agreement, you don't want it to be wishy-washy, right? You want it to be hard and set in stone and legally binding. I've seen community benefit agreements that happen in like other realms that are not legally binding, and it's sort of like, well, how do you hold them accountable to that, right? It's sort of like, they said they're gonna do a thing and you hope they do it.
So it would have to be with like the city that they're in, the borough, wherever that's located, or the county.
Yeah.
One of the sections of government.
And usually, like, if there's no reason for the corporation to sign one, they won't, right? Like, there has to be, that's why the leverage, like the zoning requirements or the, you know, there has to be some sort of legal leverage to push them into signing this
And it's
thing.
already zoned for power plant usage.
Yeah.
It's on an old power plant.
Exactly, exactly.
But if it's zoned for power plant usage, does that also include, it can make as much noise and pollution as it wants?
Probably, I don't know.
Yeah, does the zoning have like some kind of parameters around noise, pollution, and
Well,
regular?
the power plant's not gonna be as noisy as the data center, so we would have to wait until they unveil whatever data center they're gonna build, right?
Yeah, so I guess we can't know quite yet.
Could you do a community benefits agreement with the data center but not the power plant?
Yeah, but I just don't know what legal leverage there is
Yeah.
for the data center also.
It's the same.
Well, there are permits coming through for that.
Right.
Did you have something to add? Like,
I just had a question. I know that I don't remember who, but in conversations with a couple people about a CBA, somebody had mentioned that they heard like a lot of times they don't equally benefit everybody in the community, and there's like infighting over what we want to ask for, injustice in like the way it's carried out. Like, what kind of insights do you have on that based on your work with like how, if there was a CBA, like would it like how to make it the most just for the community?
so I haven't worked on any projects directly that have a CBA, but other people on Clean Air Council have, and I. You know, every time we talk about the project, we talk about a CBA. So I've talked with those people in Clean Air Council, and well, actually, there was a settlement agreement in a project that I worked on. So there was like a community fund, and basically, it's like it can be a source of tension, right? It can kind of like drive a wedge between any sort of like community sentiment around a project. So like, you can basically convince some part of the community that would have normally sided with the community as a whole that there's something for them, right? And they kind of like, they'll be quiet on it. So that I guess, that is a concern that multiple people at Clean Air Council who've worked on this have expressed to me about that sort of thing. Like, they've seen it happen time and time again, that when there's a pot of money, divvying up that pot of money is suddenly like everyone is arguing, you know? And it's sort of like, it has it's like the opposite of unification. It has like it splits people up. Yeah, it's divisive. But I think that's it's just like a general concern, right? A general concern.
So who's like, who from the community like signs on? Like, what does it mean that the community signs on? Who is the community in that?
Yeah, so normally, like, the legal leverage, it's whoever has that legal leverage, right? So say you need to you need to change a zoning ordinance to allow a project. That zoning board, that council, they're the ones who have the legal leverage to like enter into this agreement, right? So when you're asked like who represents the community, like in our government, our elected officials represent our community, right? That's often far from the case, right? Like legally they represent the community, but in terms of actual representation, that can really vary, right? But they're the ones who would have that power. But again, like again, you don't need the legal leverage, but that's like what pushes a corporation to want to enter an agreement, right? Yeah. One thing I want to talk about. So you asked about the data centers, right?
Yeah.
That really. What's that?
There's a question.
Okay.
I was just gonna make a comment about community benefits agreements.
Okay. Yeah. Before I go on, yeah.
One way I've seen them framed is that they are a kind of appeasement for communities. In other words, corporations can dump all their crap in an area, devastate it environmentally, and they'll say, but don't worry, we're gonna give you a few crumbs over here. But they're sometimes seen as a community kind of selling their soul, saying, great, we're gonna have these few crumbs, and you can, you corporate entity can do whatever the hell you want to us. So that's a potential problem with community benefits.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like a contract negotiation, right? The power in a contract negotiation is everyone being on the same page, like all the workers being on the same page. If half the workers are like, we're going to take a buyout and screw the other workers, then you lose your power, right? So ideally, the community is on as much of the same page as they can be, so that like one segment of the community is not selling out the other segment of the community, right? And that is difficult. It's difficult to like have that depth of organizing. I mean, you know, unions struggle to have that kind of depth of organizing. So that is definitely a challenge. And it means like, you know, it's easy to like have an advocacy group and have only the people that you normally talk to in that advocacy group, right? But there's lots of people in the community that are not in this room, and they also live here, and their interests also matter, and they might not necessarily agree completely with you, right? But our hope is that if we can get them the facts and make sure that they know that they have a say, then maybe you can kind of like figure out what the community genuinely wants, right? And not what the community is being told that it wants. Yeah. One more thing I'll say about benefit agreements that are not legally binding. One of the things I've stressed in other talks that I've had is that the corporations like Homer City Redevelopment, they can say anything that they want and then not fulfill those promises, and there's no accountability. The only accountability is like people remembering, but then what do you do after that, right? Because things that they say in their press release or to the media is not legally binding, right? That's why it's so important to have a legally binding community benefit agreement. Because I've seen corporations negotiate with governments where they're like, we're gonna do this. Like they've even written it down, but it's not a legally binding document. There's nothing to hold them to it, right? So you gotta watch out for that, because it's pretty comfortable practice, right, for corporations to oversell what they're doing. We've seen it with Beaver County, with the cracker plant. And not just corporations, politicians too. Politicians can say this is gonna bring this, this, and this. 10 years later, when we can actually see the proof of it, like they're gonna be out of office. Maybe they'll be onto another position, right? Like there's minimal accountability, right? Theoretically, journalism is supposed to hold politicians accountable, and like if you want to run for something 10 years from now, it's like check the facts of what they said before, but that doesn't really happen that much. And even when it does, like people are not paying attention. So that's why the legally binding stuff is so important, right? And you have to take things that you hear in the press releases and in the like news quotes with a big grain of salt, right? And hey, what I'm saying right now is not legally binding, right? So you should take what I say with a grain of salt too. But like, I don't really have a financial benefit, right? Like, I'm not paid more if like residents find out the truth about this project, right? I'm not gonna get rich. I'm definitely not gonna get rich no matter what. But like, you know, if more residents find out about this project. But if people can sell these things that they're saying, they will get rich. So.
You're about to start talking about the AI data centers?
Yeah, I was just going to say really quick that this conflating of the data center and the gas plant, like we've already heard it here tonight, we really got to watch out for that, right? But that also feeds into part of why it's not a done deal. There are no like plans being put forward for the data centers yet. They're still looking for buyers.
They don't make any money yet.
Like the gas plant is not a done deal, but the data centers are even less of a done deal, right? They're further out, but that doesn't mean things won't move quick, right? It just means that if you're not happy with it, or if you think other people need to know about it, don't give up, right? Because that's kind of, I think a lot of projects try to build with momentum so that people give up. And I've heard people express those sorts of sentiments. And yeah, if you think that your neighbors need to hear what's really going on, then keep at it, But yeah, even the gas plant, like we've seen gas plants go down at this stage.
For the stuff that was done before, I heard that they made some changes to the permit that they did. Can you talk about those changes? Like, maybe one a little bit?
Yeah, okay, so this is like an engineer question about like what specific changes. Man, we talked about it on Thursday. I think like overall, they're kind of like not massive changes, right? But the permit is better than the initial draft permit, right? But it also is not good enough, right? Which is why we are going to appeal that they've approved the permit. basically, like, they did a very thorough comment response document, and a lot of their responses were like, this is good enough, this is sufficient, and our engineers and attorneys disagree. So we're gonna take it to court.
Awesome. All right.
But, you know, like you read the document, and a lot of the document is like, this is technically good enough, right? Which again, like DEP has weak environmental laws. So if technically good enough is not like good enough for people's health,
That's
right?
standards.
Yeah, exactly. Then there's a lot of debate about like what is the best available technology, right? That's kind of like, I think maybe the crux of part of the argument. DEP is saying like, well, the company says this is the best they can do, you know? And we're like, that's not good enough. But yeah, like the regulations themselves are not that good, right? You don't have to be like, okay, well, the DEP says it's good, then it's gonna be, it's like, what the DEP says is good is not necessarily good for your health, right? That's just what the laws say. And you know how laws can be written, right? There's a lot of different problems with that.
So if the next step then is you're appealing, I mean, or is there, what is the next, what's coming down the pike?
So that's like coming down the legal pike,
Yeah.
is the appeal, but that's like not the only avenue, right? That is one avenue that we are good at, right? We're very good at that avenue, but it's important for, like, that avenue is supported by like a public relations type work. It's supported by further research that's going on. But so that's one thing. Another thing that's happening is there needs to be more education in the public, like I talked about, right? Like about what is the real story behind emissions? What health issues do you need to be worried about? What's the truth behind the economic impact? And I heard you talking about this report. I'd love to take a look at that. But you know, some of the things that are being presented are being oversold, and we just want to make sure that people are not just buying that, right?
We talk about the climate impact as well.
Yeah, that's a serious concern that I think is just like kind of being flat out ignored, actually.
Yeah.
But it's not just a climate impact, right? It's like a serious health, local air pollution and water pollution type impact too. Yeah, and then there are other impacts, right? You spoke about noise. We just want to lay it all out. So,
Can I interject something?
yeah.
So there's two different entities here. There's the power plant and the data center. The power plant is sort of already existing because the land's there, probably a lot of the legal permits are there. But the data center is further down the pike, which means that they need land. Correct?
Yeah, I'd also want to just pause real quick. The power plant is like construction, if it has started, is just started. So it's not there. It hasn't gotten all the permits that it needs, especially because we're appealing this plan approval. So I just wanted to clarify. And that like speaks to that it's not a done deal, right? The way you're speaking about it is as if it's a done deal.
Okay, but the data center is definitely not done.
You're right. It's further further away for
And to do
sure.
a data center, you need land.
Yes.
So that could be something to organize around. If they can't get the land, they can't do the data center.
We think they have purchased the land already. And they're also applying for permits for like what we think will be a data center,
Oh, so
a
the land's
construction
already
pad
been
to build
purchased.
data centers on.
We think and they. Who is they?
Okay, yeah, Homer City redevelopment.
So they're buying the land, so they're going to own the data centers themselves, or they're just going to rent the land out to the data centers?
I believe they're going to own the data centers and lease it out to corporations, but I'm not 100% sure. It's hard to like have details on that, right? Because it's like no real plans have been put forward. There's like a mock-up, like no permits have been applied for, like that's why it makes it so hard to talk about the impacts, right?
How many people is the Homer Center Corporation?
How many people work for it?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Consider
I should
redevelopment.
find out.
Yeah, I
Homer
wonder
Center
too.
Redevelopment Group.
That's a good question. Like, how big are they?
Yeah.
I
is
have a
it-
question
we-
and a comment. If you listen to Robin Gorman, and there's a recording of her giving that presentation at that real estate conference,
Mhm.
Yeah.
she says they already have a customer right, for the data center, and they're in negotiations now, and they're going to announce it soon. The other thing is that I just wanted to know, the center here is, in their introduction to the packet, they say there are going to be multiple data center facilities. And I wonder if the center has had confirmation of that.
It's all resources that are mentioned before that. Mentioned here, there's a reference to that.
Okay. So we don't even know if there's going to be there could be more than one data center.
Oh, yeah. Well, because like, look at this, 4.5 gigawatts of power. Like, so you guys have heard about data centers across the country, right? Look at what the wattage of those data centers are. It's like way smaller than what's 4.5 gigawatts. Like all the data centers you're hearing about are way smaller than what's being proposed for here.
That's because this one's going to be an AI, which takes up more energy. Is that correct?
I think some of those other, like they call them hyperscale data centers, right? Like I think a lot of those are being used for AI, but I think this is gonna it's gonna have like a whole bunch of them.
Yeah. I just wanted to add one more thing on to what Dr. Comfort said. At that same conference, Robin Gorman also stated that they already have 5,000 acres, and they started with 3,200. So like, we definitely know they have already increased how much land.
They went from 3,200 to 5,000.
Yep.
That's
According to Robin Gorman, so.
I've also heard anecdotally that developers have been harassing people who are interested.
Yeah.
I did hear it.
Behind the course of the solar houses.
And
Compared to what it were.
yeah, I heard that they were trying to buy houses for maybe like $25,000 for something really, really tiny. You know, just not what it's worth at all. I've also just wanted to make a comment about like how far along they might be with building this. I've seen so many posts on Facebook complaining about the shaking of the houses from the explosions. And people being concerned about them cracking their foundations. So I just feel like that's just a point to show they're not nearly as far along as like building it, and it's also like people are starting to change their minds about it. They're starting to not like it and not feel trustful of it. So it might be like maybe we can get some of those people on board here.
One other thing I'll say is that I think some people feel like, okay, so some people don't want this to be built at all, right? Some people want it to be built, but wants to make sure that the community's getting something out of it, right? I think there's an idea that those may be two completely different paths, but the best way for the community to get something out of it is to be strong about the concerns, right? So like, to be strong about the health impacts, the environmental impacts, be real about the job impacts, because that's going to give you the best negotiating position. Or like, you know, they're talking about using the benefit agreement to appease resistance. Like, the stronger resistance there is, the more they're going to want to negotiate, the more they're going to want to like throw you some scraps, throw the community some scraps. So like, it doesn't have to be two completely different paths. And getting the truth out there is going to help, no matter how you feel about the project.
Yeah, I have a question. Like, where did this notion of a community benefit agreement come from? Because like initially when I saw that as like the title of this meeting, I was really concerned because I felt like, oh, it's over. They've already made it. We've already lost. That's how I felt immediately when I saw that.
I think there's a little bit of that actually. Like, people were like, this is going to come no matter what, so we might as well get something out of it. I think that is a strong sentiment for some people who are supporting that kind of thing, right? It's sort of like, let's not fight, let's just try to get something for our community. But the thing is, that is also a fight. Like, getting something for your community is something that you fight for. Most of the time, communities get nothing, right? Like, that would be that most ideal for the corporations, for the community to get nothing. So if you're gonna want something, you're gonna need to fight, and you probably wanna link up with other people who are fighting.
Looking for leverage points. Either way, you're gonna look for a leverage point.
Yeah.
I have a question for the researchers that wrote this up. You said you look worldwide, right? Not just the United States? You know,
Yeah.
is
We
there
started
anywhere-
with that.
Is there any precedent anywhere in the world where they got it right? Because a lot of times when you're writing laws or whatever and you find some state that got it right, all the other states copy those states and they write their laws to match that. So in your research, we're talking about all the things that go wrong. did you find anywhere in Sweden or Finland or Australia or Georgia where they actually got it right and they wrote it in a way that helped everybody? Did they get it right anywhere?
Honestly, I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but not really. I mean, they learned from trial and error, so they try to make it better the next time. But we didn't find like a precedent that's like, you know, it was great and then like, you know, we can follow that. It's just like slow progress. Plus, yeah.
I run a nonprofit in Pittsburgh called Computer Reach, and we use AI every day. And I see it benefiting people's lives all the time. I use it every day. It's not perfect, but I'm looking at the long game. Like, this community has resources. They could benefit if they do it right, and you could really help society by making Indiana a beacon of good work. That you figured this out early and everybody got together, had an agreement that was good for the government, it was legally binding. If you don't and you all fight it and they go to the next county down, you may have missed an opportunity. So I'm thinking of the long game, how it helps the society. But again, if it's gonna hurt your citizens, you don't wanna do it. That's why I wanna know if your research came up with anything good. We're all talking about the bad, but no good, right? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, I personally have been affected by AI. Like, I'm an illustrator, and with AI art, like the barrier to entry to become a working artist has been like completely diminished on such a competitive field to begin with. I used to get paid to do jobs that like your phones can do now. Like, I used to remove backgrounds from images and like do photo retouches, and like now you can just do that on your phone thanks to AI. So like, I'm already seeing it replace one of the most humanistic jobs that exist. So I have to really argue against any kind of sentiment about like just sugarcoating it and making it feel like it could help. But that's just my opinion and my personal experience.
I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out the previously mentioned real estate development conference. They mentioned this as a pilot project for this type of thing to be spread throughout the state. So, like you were mentioning before, hopefully how it could be worked out to be better in the long term. This project is essentially going to be a baseline for other types of projects like this to be spread throughout the state. So if you're wanting like it to be necessarily what is like where it's working with the community, that's probably not the route that they're going to be most likely taking if it's a pilot project and it's going off of very little to no research on that front. What's one good thing though is we mentioned earlier about community. There is already a great group of community members who are working on a pamphlet and a group to be resisting the power plant and fractional power plant, the data center. So if you are interested, you can come over here. We have an email list for them as well. I've been working with these guys closely, so if you're interested, feel free. I'll throw it back to Jay.
Well, actually, can we say something more about
yeah.
the organization? And John,
Sure.
do you want to say something about the organization?
Well, we are concerned residents of Western Pennsylvania. The acronym is PRO. And we've done research. We've been meeting the last several weeks. We narrowed down the research to, in this, our first pamphlet anyway, 3 different areas of significant concern: the economic, the health or environmental concerns, and then the building of bonanza, which we see relevant in this circumstance. We've just begun our social media and various things, so we don't have a whole lot of information as far as contacting us, but on the back, if you're interested and you read this over and you want to be involved, we do have a website. You can contact us through the website and find more information about us. We'll be moving regularly.
And I do want to say that all the research will, if you go to the website very soon, all of the research, all the documentation for this research will be up if you want to follow up on any of this. And we're also planning a town hall meeting in January. We haven't fixed a date yet. And so if you're just concerned, you haven't decided what you think of this, you want to have opportunities for more discussion, we're going to have several organizations there, including Jay with the Clean Air Council, talking about the environmental and economic impacts of data centers, and particularly this one. We're really hoping that Sean O'Leary with the Ohio River Valley Institute, we're hoping that we'll be able to get him to come as well, because a lot of our data on jobs is from him. And his point, for instance, that on average, he did a study of 810 data centers around the world represented by 7 companies, and the average number of employed people in those data centers is only 27 people. He also just emphasizes that these are capital intensive projects, not labor intensive projects. I think that's very, very important. He just has a whole slew of really, really important ideas and data for us to really consider as we think about how this is going to impact our community. And I think this point from Jay, that this is not a done deal at all. This is not inevitable, right? And you know, we really want this, given the enormous environmental and health goals that it could really impose on us as a community. I'll stop talking.
I wanted to respond to this gentleman's sentiments. I think there are 2 sentiments. One sentiment is if it doesn't come here, it's going to go somewhere else. And the other sentiment is AI is a good technology for our society, in that, you know, you want to be part of that. Okay, the first sentiment, if it doesn't come here, it'll go somewhere else. I think I have 2 thoughts about that. One, it can kind of feed like race to the bottom type things, where it's sort of like, well, we don't sell ourselves here. Like, you see with stadium deals, right? Like, NFL teams are constantly threatening cities that they're going to go to another city, and then those cities kind of give up like massive amounts of tax dollars to keep them in the city. So we got to watch out for that race. We've seen our corporations like Foxconn, they've secured like really good sweetheart deals with government because the threat is like they're going to go somewhere else. I just want to be careful with that kind of sentiment, right? It can lead to a bad spiral when places are kind of like competing with each other, try to sell themselves out, like sell to lowest bidder kind of thing. And also part of that is that there are data center like fights happening all across the state, and also all across the country, and also all around the world. So it's not just like, well, if this community didn't want a data center, it would be the only community saying no. Like, they're being told no all over the place. And that's going to make it more likely for, instead of corporations coming, trying to slip it under the radar, try to like lie about the impacts, lie about the economic benefits, like they'll come to the table and be like, look, like, we know that there is resistance to this thing. We're going to give you this because we know we're saddling you with this that's not normally going to benefit you. So I think, again, like, the more you fight, the better deals you can strike, right? And then this other idea that AI is good for society. One big problem that we're having is that AI companies are fighting to be as little regulated as possible. Like, they're trying to slip it into federal legislation preemption so that states can't regulate AI. Like, one tricky thing is that sometimes when we have good technology, people who benefited are the wealthy. Like, people who are working, they're not going to get most of the benefits from improved technology. And that's something, the only way we can deal with that is through better regulation, right? But they're kind of, the AI companies are getting ahead of us by making it so that we can't regulate it at all. They're looking to deregulate constantly. There's not zero regulations, but it's pretty close to zero, and that's like the ideal situation for them. So I also think there's a difference between generative AI and AI that's like used for like specific scientific applications, or, you know, like, we have to, I think we can all learn a lot more about AI so that we can understand, like, this AI is really important for science, like, let's protect it, let's emphasize it, let's encourage it, right? If you want to have this at a data center, the community is supportive of it. This AI is going to eliminate jobs, right? Maybe we want to regulate that. Maybe that's something that, or if we're going to eliminate jobs, let's support people in another way, right? Like there needs to be a lot more protection, but right now in our society, there's always a push for deregulation, and that's not a good technological advancement situation.
But I deal with people that are disabled and people that can really benefit from a large language model.
Yeah.
I know it takes away your job. It's also, I have a lot of engineers that are volunteering with you because they can't get jobs. So I feel for you that you lost your graphic job. I mean, I have people that can't get jobs, so they're volunteering at my warehouse fixing computers because they can't find a job.
Yeah.
2 people just graduated from Penn State with electrical engineering degrees and they can't find work. So I see it every day. I understand.
Yeah.
My daughter's a graphic artist too. She's getting work. She's losing work too. But on the other hand, large language models can benefit certain segments of society. So it's not black or white.
Yeah, the nuance. I think the nuance is really important. I think the nuance is important, and the only way nuance can happen is if through conversation, because when you're just like throwing talking points at each other or like, you know, arguing online, the nuance gets lost. So one of our hopes is to generate more conversations, so that nuance can come out, and that people can like figure out where they want to land, right?
My goal is for my nonprofit is people understand what AI is, and they can understand it, but also be afraid of it and just know what it is.
Yeah.
So when they're talking about it on TV, they know it. They at least are educated. That's my goal for as a nonprofit.
That's a big part of the education
I feel for
also.
what you're saying. I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just trying to find something positive in all this.
Yeah.
For Indiana County and all my constituents that live here. So.
I think part of the problem too in this particular circumstance is that it's being fast-tracked.
It is.
Right, and that
way too
seems
fast.
to me to discourage conversation or contemplation or pausing and asking questions.
It's happening way too fast.
And apparently our governor said, well, it's fast-tracked because we have to beat the Chinese.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, what exactly are we doing? You know, I just feel like it's, I don't know. That's another way in which it feels like we're being kind of run over with it, not actually being allowed to ask the questions we need to ask.
Did you have something?
Yeah, I am mentally disabled. I don't particularly appreciate when able people decide to just throw out, oh, accessibility in terms of AI things. AI has actually hurt a lot of mentally disabled and mentally ill people. There's a lot of documentation of it encouraging and creating delusions. It's also like a lot of people will like bring up like disabled people for like things like image generation and stuff. Like if you're not supportive of generative AI being used for this, then like you're discriminating against disabled people who like might not be able to like draw a picture because of their disability or something, and that makes me feel like really sick and upset, especially when the people who are with mental disabilities who are being targeted to be used as talking points by able people are people who experience impairments that would prevent them from being able to speak against being used as a talking point. There is a difference between accessibility technology and generative AI. I could see in some small aspects of AI usage there being applicability to like AI technology, using it for like supporting with speech purposes, I could see, but that is very different than much of the generative AI that is being used. And there is a whole lot of harm that it is causing. It is hurting people like me. It is hurting the environment. It is causing damage in quality of education, quality of information resources, reliability of information resources.
One thing that I have found is that with the push of AI into search engines, it has become when I am not in a good space and do not have the great amount of energy to expend to find good answers to things, it is so much harder to find those answers because it is pushing the AI, which is known to lie. It is known to fake sources, lie about sources. It is known to provide false information. It is known to be very easy to manipulate. And now when I need information, it is often overwhelming for me to find that information. I have also seen in my field as an educator, other educators like not doing their work to support children and trying to pawn it off on AI, and also encouraging children instead of doing the activities that will support their learning and their development and their building of things like frustration tolerance, which are super important to just ask AI, which is going to cause a lot of harm to the development of those children. And any of those singular reasons should be enough for it to be, at the very least, very restricted in what is considered acceptable use for it. And the fact that there are so many of them and people are continuing to do this is upsetting.
Thank you.
I think it's, we want to be clear that we're not against technology, but unregulated technology, like almost completely unregulated technology is not good, right? And that's kind of like, that's the situation we're operating in now. There's a lot of legislation that we would like to see, but it's much easier said than done, right? So we have to operate in the kind of like here and now where all of those things are occurring, right?
Yeah, I want to say that Bernie Sanders recently released a video about regulating AI, and I would encourage people to go and watch that video. He did a really good, he's really well resourced and talked about it, and he's going to be introducing some legislation to regulate AI. We're going to get as many people behind that legislation.
And it's not just regulation, right? It's also that AI is being jammed down our throats.
Yes.
Like it's not opt-in, they're making it opt-out, and you can't even find the place to opt out, right? It's not only being jammed down our throats by the corporations and the tools that we use, but also like you were talking about, Governor Shapiro is trying to jam it down our throats, right? Senator Pittman is trying to jam it down our throats. That's not consent. And so much of our society is governed in a non-consensual way. Like, there should be buy-in. There should be buy-in, and that buy-in doesn't exist, which is why they're trying to rush it, and why they're deleting Facebook
Well,
posts.
they're also running on debt.
Yes.
None of the AI companies are making any money, so they're in a hurry to build it all out and get it ready so they can start making money. I guess it's kind of.
It's a lot
That's a
venture
big
capital.
question. Like, what happens if the data centers don't get built? What happens with the power plants? What happens if the data centers do get built, but the AI bubble bursts?
Yeah.
Then what
It
happens?
could just be
Like,
in a big empty carcass of a building.
That's right. It's going to be abandoned like a coal mine, like a fracking well, right? Like who's gonna clean it up? Who's gonna take care of the site after that? These are all questions that are really important to ask when you can. Okay, over here.
Circling back to the original topic of this evening, community benefits, the flyer from the Center for Community Growth refers to community benefits as legal agreements. And you were talking earlier about the difficulty of enforcing what are presented as community benefits agreements that are not legal agreements. It seems to me as though that in order to have a legal agreement, that has to be an agreement between two legal entities.
That's right.
And it sounds like in this case, what we should be talking to and the entities that we should be pushing to negotiate community benefit agreements are, in this case, the municipality, if it has any control over that site, the township, and the county. And also, an organization like Clean Water Action, that has a legal existence. So but it seems to me that in order to get a community benefits agreement, you can't just say, oh, well, we'll have a community, we'll have people come together and sit in this meeting room and talk. Sounds like at the very least, you need to have a 501c3 designation and to have all the paraphernalia of legal existence.
That's right.
And that we need to have organizations like that or our representative governmental organizations committed to making these negotiations for us, because that's the only way that we're going to get anything that's legally enforceable. Am I correct?
That's right. That's correct. One thing I didn't mention is, so this beaver cracker plant, we were able to get a settlement agreement with them because we had a lawsuit filed